Hello, my wonderful friends, and a heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you joining me today. It is so good to have you here. Before we begin our exploration into one of life's most gentle mysteries, I want to take a sincere moment to send a wave of warmth and care your way. Wherever you are in the world, whatever your day has been like, I truly hope you and your loved ones are feeling strong, peaceful, and are in the very best of health. Your well-being is the most important thing, and I genuinely pray for your continued vitality and happiness. Now let's take a calm, deep breath together and get ready to learn about something incredibly delicate and fascinating. So let's talk about newborn babies and one of the most curious things about them that every new parent notices almost immediately. You bring your brand new, beautiful baby home from the hospital. They're this perfect, tiny human, and they have a powerful set of lungs. They cry when they are hungry, they cry when they need a diaper change, and they cry when they just want to be held. But if you look closely during these crying sessions, you will notice something missing. There are no tears. Their little faces scrunch up, their mouths open wide in that unmistakable wail. Their bodies tremble with effort, but their eyes remain dry. It's a phenomenon that every parent observes, and it often leads to the question, why? Why don't newborns shed tears? It seems so counterintuitive. Crying and tears are almost synonymous in our minds. But for a newborn, they are two separate events that haven't yet been introduced to each other. The reason behind this is a beautiful and complex story of biological development, a story that takes us deep into the intricate design of the human body and the amazing, gradual process of growing up, even in the very first weeks of life. To understand why tears are absent at first, we need to understand what tears actually are and where they come from. Tears are not just simple salt water. They are a sophisticated biological fluid produced by a whole system within our bodies called the lacrimal system. The word lacrimal comes from the Latin word for tear, which is lacrima. This system is like a tiny, dedicated factory and delivery network for tears. The main factory is the lacrimal gland. It's a small, almond-shaped gland that sits right above each of your eyes, tucked under the bony part of your eyebrow. This gland is responsible for producing what are called reflex tears and emotional tears. But there's also a constant, baseline production of tears called basal tears that comes from smaller glands along the eyelids. These basal tears are always there, whether you know it or not. They're essential for keeping the surface of your eye, the cornea, moist, smooth, and healthy. They provide oxygen and nutrients to the cornea, which doesn't have its own blood supply, and they wash away any tiny bits of dust or debris. So, tearing is an active, continuous process, not just something that happens when we are sad. Now, when a baby is born, this entire lacrimal system is still very much under construction. It is functional, but it is also immature. The lacrimal glands themselves are not yet fully developed and are operating at a very low capacity. Think of it like a new factory that has been built and has all its equipment installed, but the workers are still being trained and the production lines are only running at a minimal level. They are producing just enough of those essential basal tears to keep the baby's eyes lubricated and protected, which is the absolute priority. This small amount of moisture is what prevents the eyes from drying out. But producing the large volume of liquid required to create streams of tears that can overflow the eyelids and run down the cheeks requires a much higher level of production, a level that the newborn lacrimal glands simply cannot achieve yet. They need time to grow and mature, just like every other part of the baby's body. There is another crucial part of the tear system that is also not quite ready for prime time, the drainage ducts. This is a part of the story that is often overlooked. You have a tiny drainage hole in the inner corner of both your upper and lower eyelids. These holes are called puncta, and they are the entrance to a series of small tubes known as canaliculi, which drain into a small sac called the lacrimal sac, which then drains through a nasolacrimal duct right into your nasal passage. This is why when you cry a lot, your nose runs. The tears are literally draining from your eyes into your nose. In a newborn baby, these drainage ducts can often be very narrow or even still partially blocked by a thin membrane that was necessary during development in the womb. So even if the lacrimal glands did produce a small surge of tears, they might not even have a clear path to flow out over the eyelid. They might just pool in the eye or drain very slowly. It's a two-part issue. The production is low, and the drainage system might not be fully open for business. Over the first few weeks and months of life, as the baby grows, these ducts will typically open up completely on their own. Sometimes, you might see a baby with a constantly watery eye, and that is often a sign that one of these ducts is still a little blocked, causing the minimal basal tears to pool up and overflow instead of draining away. This delay in tear production is also a beautiful reminder of the environment a baby has just come from. For 9 months, the baby lived in the amniotic fluid inside the womb. That is a sterile, warm, and perfectly wet environment. The eyes were constantly bathed and protected. There was no need for a robust tearing mechanism to wash away dust or to cope with dry air. The eyes were kept moist by the fluid surrounding them. The moment of birth is the moment the eyes are exposed to air, to light, and to new sensations. The lacrimal system immediately has a job to do, but it needs a little time to ramp up its operations to meet the demands of the outside world. It's a system that was on standby mode and is now being activated and calibrated. So, what is the purpose of the crying if there are no tears? This is a fantastic question. The crying of a newborn is a primal, powerful survival tool. It is their only way to communicate a need. They cannot say, "I'm hungry," or "I'm cold," or "I need a cuddle." So, they cry. That sound is biologically designed to be impossible for a caregiver to ignore. It triggers a stress response in parents, compelling them to attend to the baby. The act of crying itself, the physical act of taking a big breath and letting out a loud wail, is also important for the baby. It helps to fully expand their lungs for the first time and to strengthen the diaphragm and other respiratory muscles. The tearless cry is purely functional and communicative. It is a signal, a siren, an alarm bell. The emotional component of crying, the tears of sadness, frustration, or pain, will come later as the baby's emotional and neurological systems become more complex. The timeline for when tears actually arrive is as variable as everything else in child development, but there is a general window. Most babies will begin to produce their first visible, emotional tears sometime between 2 weeks and 3 months of age. Some might be early producers, and some might take a little longer. It's often one of those many small milestones that parents quietly celebrate. You might be rocking your fussy, crying baby, and then you see it. A single, perfect, tiny tear welling up in the corner of their eye and tracing a slow path down their cheek. It is a moment that signifies growth and maturation. It means the lacrimal glands have developed enough to ramp up production beyond the basic basal level. It's a sign that the baby's body is steadily completing its systems, getting ready for the full human experience. Of course, even after tears appear, the volume might not be like an adult's for quite some time. A toddler's full-blown tantrum might still be a relatively dry affair compared to the copious tears of an older child or adult, because the gland is still growing in size and capacity. This entire process is a wonderful example of how the human body prioritizes development. The most critical functions come online first. The number one job of the lacrimal system is protection and lubrication, not emotional expression. So, the body ensures that the baseline, life-sustaining production of tears is in place from day one. The ability to produce a flood of tears is a secondary function that can afford to develop at a more leisurely pace. There's no immediate survival disadvantage to not crying emotional tears, but there would be a massive problem if the eyes were allowed to dry out and become damaged. The body is incredibly smart in that way. It takes care of the essentials first. Understanding this also helps new parents navigate the early weeks with a little less anxiety. Not seeing tears can sometimes make a parent worry that their baby is dehydrated, especially if the baby is crying a lot. But pediatricians assure us that the absence of tears is completely normal and not a sign of dehydration in an otherwise healthy newborn. Signs of dehydration in a baby are more likely to be seen in fewer wet diapers, a sunken soft spot on the head, listlessness, and a dry mouth. The cry without tears is simply a sign of a baby who is brand new to the world and whose body is still finishing its final preparations for life on the outside. It's a gentle, quiet reminder of the miracle of development and the incredible journey that every single human being has taken, from a protected life in the womb to an independent life in the world. So, the next time you hear a newborn's cry, remember the sophisticated biological machinery that is quietly, steadily developing behind the scenes, getting ready to add that visible, heartfelt proof of emotion to the sound of their voice. It's a process that beautifully marries the biological with the emotional, and it's just one of the many marvels of a new life.